So on this day in 2003, Arsenal and Manchester United played in the Battle of Old Trafford. In this video I just look back at that game and a bit of the rivalry between the two clubs. Hello, my name is Richard and welcome back to my channel over and over and over again, which features everything to do with Arsenal. So in this video I just really want to look back on a game played on this day, the 21st of September 2003, up at Old Trafford. Of course it became known as the Battle of Old Trafford following a few incidents when Ruud van Nistelrooy missed a last minute penalty, if you remember. Just before I get into all that, I just want to make sure that you're all subscribing to my channel. If you enjoy what I'm doing, please, I say, click on the subscribe button below. If you're new here, you're not really sure what I do, I do try and keep this as a positive Arsenal channel, and also as well I do like to look back on the history of the club and big incidents that's happened, including obviously videos like this one, also some former player profiles and that kind of stuff as well I do. So if you like what I'm doing, I say please click on the subscribe button. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up as well, because that really does help the video to get noticed more on YouTube. It helps the channel to grow as well, so that would be really much appreciated. So I say this day, 2003, the 21st of September, Arsenal went up to Old Trafford. It was the early part of what would become, of course, the Invincible season. Now, Arsenal and Manchester United had developed quite a strong, bitter rivalry, actually, that had gone back quite a number of years. The modern kind of history between the clubs probably started in January 1987. Of course, that was in George Graham's first season as Arsenal manager, and it was also very, very early in Alex Ferguson's reign as Manchester United manager as well. Now, Arsenal went to Old Trafford that day, top of the league, unbeaten in 22 games, but Manchester United took a very physical approach. I think Alex Ferguson was trying to put his mark on the club. But it was David Rocastle for Arsenal who got sent off that day for reacting to a foul by Norman Whiteside on David O'Leary, and that was the start of what would become a real bitter rivalry between the clubs. If you remember the following season in the FA Cup tie, it was February 1988 at Highbury, when Brian McClair skied a penalty into the North Bank in the last minute, and of course Nigel Winterbur's reaction to Brian McClair, that started an issue between the two sides that really exploded a couple of years later, October 1990 at Old Trafford, the Brawl of Old Trafford as that one was known, when McClair got his revenge on Winterburn, didn't he, when he kicked him when he was on the ground, and that led to the 21 player brawl, of course. As a result of that, Arsenal of course got deducted 2 points, and Manchester United got deducted 1 point, but of course Arsenal did go on to win the league that season, losing just one game. Things seem to maybe settle down a little bit between the clubs then, but of course as we went into the Premier League era, Manchester United of course won the first 2 Premier League titles. Arsenal then rebuilt under Arsene Wenger, became serious challengers to Manchester United, and of course won the double in 1998. And of course by now you had the rivalry between Patrick Vieira and Roy Keane, which had become pretty much the highlight of the Premier League at that time. You know, every game between the two clubs was the biggest game of the season, and everybody looked forward to the rivalry between Keane and Vieira, of course. Now, just going back a little bit in 2003, if you remember, Arsenal won the double in 2002, of course, winning the league at Old Trafford, and then in early 2003, Arsenal had also won away at Old Trafford in the FA Cup, as Arsenal went on to retain the trophy. But in the league, Arsenal were 8 points clear of Man United at 1 point, but then Manchester United clawed it back, and there was a big game at Highbury in April 2003. Arsenal really needed to win to stay in the hunt for the league title, but it finished in a 2-2 draw, incident-packed game, which saw Sol Campbell actually get sent off towards the end for an elbow on Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. Now, it wasn't intentional, and it seemed a very harsh red card. But again, it fanned the flames of the rivalry, and there was a really tasty Community Shield game between the two clubs in August 2003 at the Millennium Stadium. Again, it finished in a draw, a 1-1 draw. Francis Jeffers got sent off for Arsenal, and then after the game, Sol Campbell actually received a 3-match ban for kicking out at Eric Djemba in an incident that had been missed by the referee at the time. So when Arsenal went up to Old Trafford in September 2003, there was simmering resentments going on between the clubs, between some of the players as well. And this was a day when it really exploded. Now, just to put it into a little bit of context, Arsenal actually arrived at Old Trafford that day on the back of a little bit of a difficult time they'd had. The previous week, we'd been fortunate to get a 1-1 draw at home to Portsmouth. That was a game, if you remember, where Robert Pires later admitted to diving to win a penalty, which Thierry Henry scored to put us back in the game, having been 1-0 down. And then in the midweek, we'd actually been thrashed 3-0 at Highbury by Inter Milan in the Champions League. A really, really poor performance that was. Now, because of that, and also maybe because of Pires' dive the week before, Arsene Wenger made a few changes to the team that played that game at Old Trafford. Pires and Wiltord were both left out, and they were replaced by Parler and Lundberg, Wenger adding a little bit more physicality to his midfield. Now, Arsenal actually set up that game to be very, very defensive, very negative actually, very unlike Wenger. And in fact, we didn't have a shot on target in the whole 90 minutes in that game. It was a very defensive performance. Manchester United found it difficult to create much themselves, if we're honest. And the game was kind of more noted for the fouls and the yellow cards that were given out, as opposed to any of the great football that both teams were noted for. The whole game exploded about 10 minutes to go. Patrick Vieira had only just been booked actually for a foul when Van Nistelrooy went in on the back of Vieira, and laying on the ground, Vieira reacted, kicked out towards Van Nistelrooy. It was nowhere near him, but Van Nistelrooy jumped out of the way, made a big deal out of it, which possibly forced referee Steve Bennett to produce a second yellow card and send Patrick Vieira off. Now, the Arsenal players clearly were unhappy with Van Nistelrooy's reaction, felt that he'd made more of it than he needed to, and you could see a simmering atmosphere going on from that point onwards. And then, of course, in the final minute of the game, drifting out towards a 0-0 draw, Steve Bennett, the referee, again angered Arsenal by giving Manchester United a penalty when Martin Keown and Diego Forlan had challenged for a ball in the penalty area. It just looked like a 50-50 challenge. It could have gone either way. For me, if you're going to give a penalty in the last minute of an Arsenal-Man United game at that time, you needed to be 100% certain. He couldn't possibly have been, but it was given as a penalty anyway. And of course, Martin Keown was now absolutely raging. Van Nistelrooy would inevitably take the penalty. Of course, he was already the villain of the piece as far as the Arsenal players were concerned, and the Arsenal fans, of course, in the away end. Now, he'd actually missed his previous 2 penalties for Manchester United, so clearly he was under a lot of pressure. Jens Lehmann in goal for Arsenal tried to make it as difficult for him as possible by jumping about on his goal line, and it seemed to work because Van Nistelrooy went for power over placement, smashed the ball against the crossbar. Seconds later, the final whistle went, and of course there was that famous picture, or infamous picture rather, of Martin Keown jumping up at the back of Van Nistelrooy to sort of celebrating the fact he had missed a penalty, and also I suppose a bit of revenge, if you like, for his part in the Patrick Vieira sending off. What that meant was the game ended in total chaos. Several players from both sides got involved. Lauren and Ray Parler basically were pushing Van Nistelrooy. Ashley Cole got involved. Ryan Giggs from Manchester United. Of course, Gary Neville inevitably was involved as well. Cristiano Ronaldo, and although it wasn't quite as big as the brawl that had happened in 1990. It was probably more high profile actually at that time with the rivalry between the clubs and everything else that was going on. Now, as a result of all of that, Arsenal again, as they had done in 1990, came out on the worst side of the FA. Arsenal were charged with failing to control their players, and several Arsenal players got bans, including Keown, Lauren and Ashley Cole. Whereas on the Manchester United side, the club didn't get charged at all, and Ryan Giggs and Cristiano Ronaldo just got a fine and warned about their future behaviour. So once again, Arsenal did get punished a lot more for their behaviour that day. Now, I'm not condoning what Martin Keown did in particular, although Van Nistelrooy clearly deserved the treatment that he got. It wasn't maybe befitting of Arsenal as a club, but I suppose in a way it summed up the rivalry between the clubs at the time. And of course, the following season, if you remember, our next visit to Old Trafford we went there. Of course, we were 49 games unbeaten, a record for English football, English top flight football. And of course, Manchester United that day set out to not only to end our record, but to make sure that they kicked it out of us as well. And of course, that was another controversial game, wasn't it? Where Manchester United got a very, very dodgy penalty that day again. Well, it was Wayne Rooney dived, didn't he? If you remember, and Van Nistelrooy scored that penalty. And of course, Man United got a second goal in the final seconds as Arsenal pushed on looking for an equaliser. And of course, that was the game afterwards where Cesc Fabregas threw a pizza at Alex Ferguson. Now, with all of that kind of sort of brought an end in a way to that real big rivalry between the clubs. Arsenal, of course, would decline a little bit away from being title challengers. I think the Premier League has lacked that, hasn't it, in recent years, a rivalry like that between two clubs. Yeah, I just hope that brought back some memories of those times and that particular incident. So that's it for today. If you like this video, say please give it a thumbs up. Please subscribe to my channel. I've got a lot of stuff coming up in the next week or so as we move into a really important part of the season. Arsenal playing Leicester, of course, in the Carabao Cup on Wednesday. I'll be doing a preview of that game probably tomorrow. I'll also be doing later on today my weekend review of the Premier League action. And then, of course, we're moving towards the big game at Anfield on next Monday. I'll be doing another live podcast, a Positive Arsenal podcast will be coming up. I might do that at the weekend, actually, obviously, because we're not playing till Monday. And I'll also have a preview of the match in the build-up as well, and hopefully as well we might have some good positive transfer news, both ins and outs, in the next day or two. There seems to be a lot of movement going on, certainly in terms of Lucas Torreira and Thomas Partey as well. That deal may be partly swapped and stuff like that could be happening, so stay tuned for that, because I think there could be exciting stuff coming on the transfer front in the next few days. I think it's important, isn't it, having seen the performance against West Ham, that we do need some reinforcements in midfield, but we've spoken about that already. So I say that's it for today. Hope you enjoyed that. I say thanks for watching today. Thanks for the support for the channel. It's really much appreciated. It's just me going on about Arsenal for a few minutes a day usually, so it's great to get the support that I have. I say if you do like it, please subscribe, help me to grow the channel. So that's it for today. And of course, as always, as we build up towards a big week for Arsenal, both on and off the pitch, come on you Gunners!